Mr. Zlotnick, I don't. You had some other comments, I know, in different sections. So on this, if you could restrict your comments to the levy section.
That was my intent.
The levy recommendation.
That was my intent, since I assume we'll be back tomorrow.
We will.
Just very quickly, just want to comment generally about the staff write-up. We thought it was a very good job, and generally concur with most of their interpretations, both positive and not so positive. Just want to comment on a couple of things specifically. You did have a little bit of the discussion regarding the whole dreams analysis and the issue of conveyance and the levies, and was that enough? And I think Joe, in his colloquy with Professor Michael and some of the comments with Dr. Pike, got into the apples and oranges issues, and I think you're identifying that basically, well, if you're just looking at sort of an engineering component of maintaining levees, there's a lot of sense to what the study had said regarding dreams, but it doesn't deal with the fishery conflicts with regard to conveyance, and it doesn't deal with the impacts of salinity increases from sea level rise in the future as well. So I think you handled that, but just wanted to put that on the record as well. With regard to the levies, just two comments. On number 2, I think, and I believe this
is the lowland levy
discussion. And just sort of part of this. And actually, I think Supervisor Natoli's comments, when he kind of silenced the room at that time, were very well taken. In many respects, as the discussion of BDCP and the habitat, a lot of this is aspirational over long term potentially, and that's a legitimate viewpoint. I think what it comes down to is the language that actually gets put into the document and how you couch that, looking at making progress toward that over time. One of the things that, though, may be missing, and if I recall correctly, is in the Delta Plan, and there was a lot of discussion at one point about matching level of protection to interest being protected. And that can go a long way to help.
That was a large part of the discussion, not in this, but the earlier DWR presentation.
No, in terms of the Central Valley Plan, but in terms of the Delta Plan itself, I believe you had a chart and you sort of got into that, and overlaying that sort of concept onto this discussion might be very helpful in terms of, again, sort of the prioritization needs that you're going to have to do because of the resource constraints.
Well, particularly if we do an a levy evaluation leading to standards as required in the statute, the more we can structure the discussion and put a framework on it in front, we can actually get to work as opposed to spend 18 months arguing about how we ought to talk about what we should talk about.
Right, and again, you can be aspirational in that sense, but putting sort of sideboards around as you go forward over time.
Sideboards?
Yeah.
What's that mean?
Well, just sort of putting
bounds on the
bounds
discussion.
on it, on the discussion and what you actually mean by that.
Got it.
So as Councilman Johnson said, you're not having people interpret it as an open-ended commitment that then isn't being met down the road. And then on number 3, the subvention program, we are generally quite supportive of that, but I think it would behoove the council and staff as an opportunity as part of the Delta Plan to basically undertake a review of the subvention program in the context of this discussion, the co-equal goals, et cetera, and that it just may be something worth looking at. There are those that are a little concerned about it right now. I don't have the details. This is what I've been told. So just it might be worth just sort of reviewing the program generally as it fits into the Delta Plan going forward. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Slotnick. I have no other cards submitted. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to us on this first levy discussion in the Economic Sustainability Plan? Any discussion on that? All right. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to us on any subject? That's kind of the close-all now at public meetings, either in the front or in the back. You now say, well, if you don't want to talk to us about what we're talking about, is there anything you want to talk about? Mercifully, no. Mercifully, no.